Now that the beta for Tom Clancy's The Division has finished on Xbox One, it's time to give our thoughts on what we think of the game now. So this is the third time we've managed to have some hands-on time with The Division, and it's definitely moved on from when we first saw it back at EGX last year. There's gradually been more detail added to the environment, the actual gameplay itself feels a bit more fluid now, and generally it's really starting to feel like a more polished game. Obviously this is still a beta, so we can't make too many judgments on it, we have to wait for the review, but what we can say is it puts itself out there as a classless RPG, but so far the skills on offer really don't seem to give that much variation in playstyle. The initial skills give you a pulse for detecting enemies, a sticky bomb, and a ballistic shield, which works in a slightly similar way to Rainbow Six Siege, although obviously in a third-person format. The game itself is fairly good fun. There's not too much content on offer in something like this, but hopefully in the full game there'll be a lot more missions to go after and a lot more different side elements to the map. If you think about something like Assassin's Creed, where you're travelling around the map and constantly getting distracted by different side missions and quests and individual incidents.
Listen up. I spent 6 years in medical school. I don't give a shit what you saw on TV.
That's something like what we're starting to see through The Division. While it is an online multiplayer focused game, there are elements which are unique to you, such as the base, which you can upgrade yourself depending on what you want to go after. There's 3 different trees, all of which have different story missions attached to them to get started, and then they have separate upgrades and perks as a result. Not much of this has been available in the beta so far, so we'll have to wait for the finished game to see how that all turns out, but the actual story mission that is there, it's relatively straightforward.
You're gonna be busy. And you'll be? Fixing this. Saving lives. Now if you'll excuse me, I'll get started.
So the objective of the game overall is to rid New York City of this deadly pathogen which seems to have decimated the population and left the infrastructure in tatters. But it's all very unclear. Part of that intrigue and mystery is presumably what's designed to drive the player through the game, but it doesn't really give you a lot to go on. There isn't that much detail in the level design itself, and it doesn't really give you that much towards the story. The gunplay is something which is familiar to those who've played things like Gears of War and other cover-based shooters, but the general mechanics do feel relatively well implemented. Darting between cover is quite fluid, and all of the different prompts on screen you can turn off if they do get a bit annoying. There's not too much variety in terms of the guns because it's all designed to be fairly realistic, but there are the core weapon types which you'd expect from a game like this. The overall interface and the look and feel feels fairly reminiscent of Splinter Cell Conviction, which had your objectives projected onto the world around you. It doesn't go that far, but there is a familiarity which reminds you of Conviction, and that's definitely a nice thing to have. Overall, The Division really leaves us with just as many questions as we've had since its original E3 reveal. Whether it's worth your money or not really depends on what sort of game you enjoy. So far, it feels like how much you can create your own fun is going to play a big part of it.